Dagr was once a min before he became a Hausk. He was the only child of a loving pair of Akin folk who loved him dearly. When he was younger, all he wanted was to become a great magi. He first witnessed this when he and his father visited a market and watched a theatrical display put on by a skillful magi. The dazzling display of raw magicka enthralled the young boy and greatly inspired him. "I want to become a magi, father," he would tell his father one day while attending morning breakfast. His father gave him an amused look and set his dining utensils down. "Becoming a magi is not an easy task, son. It requires years of study of the mystic arts and the fundamental magicka schools. You will also have to acquire a license to become one, but I have faith in you, my son. You will be great one day for certain." Dagr believed the words of his loving father and would hold those words within his heart, even when he lost his father to illness, leaving he and his mother to grieve over the great loss. This taken of his father did not deter Dagr's aspirations and only strengthened them. When he became of age, he would join the Order of the Red Flame Academy and embark on his journey on becoming a great magi. He studied diligently and excelled in his classes of general learning. He found that he had an aptitude for the arcane arts of magicka, that especially of Ashur magicka. When he graduated to a full-fledged member of the guild and got his license, Dagr quickly went to work practicing his magicka to become stronger and be known as the world's best magi ever. He would travel around the world, branching out of the country known as New Ungalde and into uncharted territory for him. During his travels, he would meet other individuals that shared in his goal to become a world-class magi and incorporated them into his band. These three individuals were beneath his level of magicka prowess, at least in the eyes of Dagr, but he would take them on as his pupils regardless. Over the years, Dagr continued to strengthen himself as well as teach his servants what it meant to be under his tutelage. One of the servants in question was to become a Villok, a type of magi that was not typically practiced nor granted a license to use magicka. But Dagr would grant his precious servant his wish and teach him the taboo arts of black magicka and even how to raise the dead, which was something greatly frowned upon all around Ain. Ain for it showed a lack of respect and disregard, but Dagr would cast this thought aside, all in the quest to become a great and powerful magi. The gods, as it were, would not be happy with the plight of Dagr, who wanted even more power for himself, however. Despite his achievements of becoming a great magi and renown around the world, Dagr wanted more. He wanted to become a god. He wanted immortality. The thought of death and the decaying of one's body terrified Dagr whether he realized it or not. It was a deep-seated fear placed in him when he was a young boy, having to watch his dear father die of sickness. The grip of death held his father in its hand, at the mercy of time and soon decay. He watched as his father slowly succumbed to the phenomenon that even he could not grasp nor come to terms with. The truth of death that came to everything and all beings in Ain was not something that Dagr could take lying down. No, he would be different. He would not suffer the same fate as his father and the other meager creations of life. He would overcome the otherwise bleak fate of all and take his own fate and destiny into his own hands. One day, Dagr came to his servants with a new ambitious goal in mind, to become immortal. It would be he that would decide his own fate, and he would show this to all and the gods that watched. He'd curse the gods as he plunged himself into his studies in becoming forever living. The path to become immortal was tainted in blood, for he was not the first to come to this conclusion of life and death. There had been many others who would attempt to cast away their faith in the gods and stake claim to their own destiny and become one which was not meant to be. But Dagr was different. He would come out victorious over this claim, whether it killed him. With the help of his servants, he went to work, studying tomes and books related to the philosophy of life and the fact of death. To change the fact of death into a simple concept, in Dagr's eyes, was a matter of knowing. All he would need to do was construct a way of reversing the decaying of time and turn death into something that could be overcome with just the sheer will to survive. He would turn death into something that was simply a matter of subject rather than an absolute end to an answer. Black magicka was a restricted practice amongst the mortals, but not forbidden. To those who braved the consequences of being seen as evil and corrupted, the possibilities were limitless. If a soul being could raise the fallen god as a result of both passion and devotion, so could he. But to become a god was something quite different from the raising of one, and if a god could fall, a being of supposed formidable power and unfathomable mysteries, then certainly a mortal can achieve the status of one. In Dagr's perspective, he saw such a being as nothing more than something that could be overtaken and replaced. Weak, in his case. He would seize this idea and shape his goal. With Black Magicka, he studied how one could preserve the soul. Extracting the soul of another came easy to Dagr, who was quite indifferent with the world around him. All he saw were pawns in his game of chess, used to further aid his ambition, and nothing more. To begin the process of preserving the body as it was, to still time itself required the understanding of the body and soul, as well as astrology, all subjects Dagr was quite familiar with already. To perform the ritual was another task. He delegated each of his servants certain jobs that they were to do without fault for the ritual to be successful. Dagr would never see the results of his attempt. During the process of performing the ritual, one of his servants had sabotaged him, causing a rift in the ritual tore at Dagr's body and rendered his soul apart. He died instantly, leaving his lifeless body intact while his soul was casted out. Dagr had no memory of his death or how it was caused. His mind was lost within the void, while his soul was left exposed to the plane of existence, never to return to its body again. This form of death is common to a phenomenal being known as a Kreptis, a shadow being akin to the void. It is believed that one who is sent to the void can never return, that all that they are is lost in the vastness that is the void. It is also believed that rare people have returned from the void by some miracle. Dagr was such a rare person. Not only was he spared his soul from the void, but over time he would begin to regain his memories, making him one of the less common types of Kreptis known as sentiental Kreptis. With his memories regained, Dagr was able to relay what happened to him, how he was sabotaged by the very ones he put his life in the trust of. They doomed him to an existence of permanent loss. Though Dagr was aware of what and who he was still dead, forced to wander aimlessly throughout time, the very thing he sought to control. For years, Dagr cursed himself and those that killed him, but with no means of regaining his life, Dagr sought any means necessary to keep his kinhood alive. Taking the life of another was not something Dagr was keen to do. However, pushed to desperation, he began to hunt. Kreptis do not normally hunt the lives of the Kindles, however it is not unheard of. One day, Dagr would haunt the life of another and take his life. He wore the skin of his victim in the belief that an identity close to the body would somehow bring life into him. This form of living for the Kreptis has never been done before and is coined as a Hausk, a Kreptic to haunt others in the means to take their very skin off their bodies and wear it as their own. Such a Hausk was last seen dwelling the sewers under a city. It was lurking in the darkness, barely visible. The keen senses and sight of an adventurous Akinine girl was the one thing that found him. Her name was Yuri, and she inquired about him. Never once did she outright ask what he was for. She seemed to hold no fear of him. After some answers to his life before he became what he was, Yuri would ask him if he would like to join her on her journey as an aspiring magi looking to become strong. Dagr agrees to this without falter and joined both Yuri and Master Ammon.